my 10th paladin, my 10th paladin, my 10th level paladin. I don't even know the name of my show. I have Dan with me. Dan's one of my friends. I don't even know how to pronounce your last name, Dan, because
It's
it has no vowels in it.
it has a couple of vowels, just not always where they should be. It's Waszkiewicz.
Yeah. See, I would have screwed that up. I would have absolutely screwed that up. And I'm pointing at the screen right now, even though you can't see me pointing. So I know Dan through Ben, who is going to be on a later episode of the show, through the local con down in Los Angeles. That's how we met. And I was shocked that his head was bigger than Ben's head. And I think
Yeah.
that's how we became friends.
Yeah, you seem to orbit around those with heads that have a gravitational pull.
Yeah, you guys, both of you guys, just
It's
massive
because
craniums.
you're small and wee, and you just get sucked up into that orbit.
I'm wee. Wow.
I mean,
I'm a gentle little fairy folk. So Dan and I are working on a project together on the side. We kind of let it both slide, but we've got something brewing, and I generally think that we get along. And I would love to hear about Dan's character, his favorite character.
yeah. Yeah, we got to get back into that, but back about the character. So I don't get to be a player character that often in most of the games. I am nearly the perpetual GM, and I kind of like it that way. But I've had a few opportunities where I've been had the chance to play. I've never been able to play Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, 4th edition. I played a little bit of 3rd edition D&D. I started off with 2nd way back in the before times. But this character is not a D&D character, but it is still a character that is my favorite. It's in another game that you know quite well. Quite well.
Is it Black Monk? I hope it's Black Monk.
It is not Black Monk.
Damn it.
No, it could be
it's going to be
Shadowrun.
Is it going to be Shadowrun?
No.
Oh, good. Because people like to say that to get under my skin, so I thought maybe that's what you were doing.
No, it's a Legend of the Five Rings character.
Oh, great. Fantastic. I've written a ton of material, so we can absolutely talk about that.
Oh, yeah. It was a game that I played with. Actually, Ben was in that game as well. So that kind of makes things a nice little tie-in. We played in a campaign that was run by my friend Fabian, and we played for roughly 2 years, and we met on a weekly basis religiously. I tend to like characters, as for myself, that aren't necessarily the good guys. I consider myself one of the good guys in real life. So when I'm a role player, I want a little bit of escapism. So, I also like professional wrestling, and my favorite characters are the heels.
Absolutely.
So my characters tend to fall along that path. He was a Scorpion courtier. And for those not familiar with Legend of the Five Rings, the Scorpion clan are the clan that do the underhanded things that, honorable samurai do not.
I'm of the opinion that the Scorpions are the only heroes in Rokugan. They are my favorite clan. When I was art directing, they couldn't be my favorite clan, but they are my favorite clan because they're the only ones that can actually do what needs to be done instead of paying lip service to honor as it's seen by the Crane and Lion.
Exactly.
I could be wrong.
I'm with you 100% on that. I was able to highlight that and kind of really dive into it. The character was a samurai, was also had courtier type things as well, but this was set in the City of Lies, Rokugan Waritoshi. And he started off just basically as a small-time functionary, and he was assigned to an Emerald Magistrate who was a imperial, and she was innocent in the ways of the world, and I was put in the position to kind of lead her way and make sure that she didn't die in the city. And I got to do the dishonorable things that she would turn her nose up at because she was the poor innocent one.
That is great. And I think City of Lies is a fantastic setting too. So.
It is fantastic. And now that I've done some stuff in the industry, I noticed something in the first paragraph or the first page of one of the books that is kind of a giant no. It tells you don't buy any other books after this because you're going to be in Railko Wari, you're going to be in City of Lies for a while. And I absolutely love that idea. It's so well put together.
Yeah, and I'm shocked that got through editing. I was there when we were putting that together. And it was a bear of a project to put together.
I can imagine there's so much stuff in there.
Yeah. It really influenced how I wrote King for a Day.
Okay.
Because of the sandboxiness of it. But now we're talking about me, and I want to talk about your character. So tell me something, an exploit that really speaks to you as memorable. This is the thing I did with my courtier that I'm going to take to my grave.
In the box set, and this is a spoiler, the previous Emerald Magistrate had been murdered, and the new Emerald Magistrate comes in and tries to figure out what had gone on. And so during the game, we had tracked down a non-person and in the Leatherman Quarter. And because of their status, the other samurai wouldn't go into the building and wouldn't really touch them or interact with them due to, silly caste business. And the murderer, the person that was responsible, started to run away. So I detailed how I would stop them, ran after them, utilizing a ninja tool, utilizing a kusurigama. And I was able to trip up the bad guy and get him to speak by using my tanto to separate each bone in his foot from the flesh.
All right.
And I detailed that pretty clearly. My GM sat there looking at me with his hands in front of his face and this evil grin, and the person playing the Imperial Magistrate, who was a little bit innocent as well. She was a little bit wide-eyed at what was going on. And, I looked at her and I said, these are the things that I have to do so you don't have to do them.
That's fantastic. Do you think that you were able to help people while playing this character understand Rokugan, or was everybody there already pretty immersed in the culture?
There were two people that were playing that did not know anything about Rokugan or about Samurai or L5R. And in going through and, talking about the clans, I was able to present the Scorpion as I saw them and as I think some of the, the authors of the material actually saw them. They weren't necessarily the bad guys. They were the guys that did the things that need to be done, like we said earlier.
Yeah.
So,
no, I've always...
helped.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It definitely helped show off the world and that it wasn't always this Pollyanna lion crane happiness.
Right. And don't get me wrong, I actually enjoy playing the lion and the crane as well. I think they have their place. I think most of the other clans kind of bore me in the tabletop, in the role playing game. Mm-hmm. But there's something about those three as sort of the core of, and it doesn't hurt that they're geographically all touching as well, but I think they become the core values of Rokugan, and everything else is some sort of derivative of those three.
Oh yeah, I think all the clans have valid valid player concepts, and you can explore and have fun with all of them. It's just a matter of who you sit down and play with.
I had pitched a project for the company years ago. I wanted to make the Create Your Own Clan book so that you could play members of a minor clan that is just getting started, and it would have been for advanced play, but it didn't get any traction. Nobody wanted to do it, but I had play tested through it a couple of times, and we had established that it was this little piece of land that the Scorpion and Crane had gifted them because they weren't using it, and we built the little clan up from that. And I think once you get past some of those elements in L5R, those bigger elements, you could feel like big fish in a small pond by making your own clan. But have you ever experimented with that?
I have, as a GM, where, talking with my players, they wanted to kind of break off and do their own thing. And I gave them lands in the, not too far off the Dragonland, so off in the mountains. And the Dragonfly clan gave them a little bit of land too. And they built up from there. They built their own little clan and became, subservient to the Dragon clan as a like a vassal family, if you will. That was a lot of fun.
You had said before we started talking, before we started recording, that you've used this character in various other campaigns in different ways.
Yes. So I have moved, since I don't get to play much, and I liked playing this character. I've recently been able to play in a Vampire the Masquerade game, and I've taken that concept of the torturer and charismatic kind of cult leader character, and I effectively just moved him over carte blanche to this vampire game. And so now he is a Banu Hakim, which are the former Assamites. He has a small group of a small cult that follows him, and regularly he tortures neonates and other vampires to get the information that he needs. There are two lower generation or higher generation, younger vampires currently in his haven that are staked and missing body parts or talking about tick off a pound of flesh. I added a religious element to it to make it even creepier.
Right. That's fantastic. What do you hope when you're playing this character? What do you hope other people are gleaning from?
Oh my God, what is wrong with this guy?
Is that it? Is that the only thing? You just want the shock value, or is there this hope that they're learning something about how far role playing can go?
I don't think it's not just the shock value. The guys that I play with and the folks that I play with, we're all friends. These are not, randos that we just met on the street.
Right.
So everybody kind of knows everyone. But in playing this character, I do get to show off that you don't have to be necessarily the good guy, but you also, if you're going to play the evil character per se, you don't have to be a counterparty player where I'm evil just because I'm evil and to hell with everything else that everyone else wants to do. Everything that my character does, especially this one, he does for the betterment of the group. So the vampire coterie, they're his friends. He'll do whatever he needs to do to protect his friends.
Right.
The scorpion was friends with the other characters in that L5R game, and he didn't do these things just to be disruptive. He did it to reach an end, and that end was to better the people that he liked or that he wanted around. Some of it was selfish, and in the L5R game, when I helped get the Emerald Magistrate hooked on opium, because I advised her that it was good medicine, and then we effectively got it stronger and stronger, and I took over as governor eventually. There was some selfishness and evilness to that, but it wasn't something to make the table be a there wasn't a conflict at the table between myself and the other players, and that you could play evil characters in a cohesive group setting.
I find that one of the things that happens with people working at our level or who are involved with the hobby at our level, we are generally game masters and not players. And for me, when I make a character like that, or I make really any kind of NPC, people hate my NPCs because my NPCs have plans and they're smart and they're doing things with their lives. They're not just waiting there like a JRPG NPC for them to ask how much is a fish. And do you find that when you're running this character, say as an NPC, or when you're running this character in any kind of game setting, that people get annoyed by the depth of the plans that the character has?
I don't feel that they get annoyed, especially as a GM. I find that my players really like that my world becomes immersive, that the characters that they meet, the NPCs, aren't just cardboard cutouts. that are only there to sell you a fish. That fishmonger has kids,
Yeah.
and he will give you the cost of the fish, but if you did something nice for him, maybe he'd lower the cost, or there's always something going on, or maybe he had a bad day. And if it's something that's reoccurring, add little things like, add the sniffles. Maybe the character has a cold, because it's a world, right? You want the world to feel as though it's real.
I think I brought up the sniffles recently in a conversation online talking about NPCs and how, yeah, they don't really have enough details like that when you encounter them. But having just had a fight with their husband or something beforehand, that's an interesting element to throw into a character before the game starts, before the PCs encounter that character.
As a GM, in doing that, it doesn't take a lot. I've talked to a lot of people that create these very large, these binders or tons of files where everything is plotted out and backstories for everything is created. You don't need that. Everything can be done on the back of an index card that you need. And if you need more, you can always add it in later.
Yeah.
But add in elements that are real life, that are, sometimes mundane and banal, that just breathes life into the stories that you're telling.
I actually am one of those guys that when I'm running let's say vampire, I need to know every vampire in the city. And so I will have I have a binder with every vampire in there, but the binder will just have 3 bullet points about each vampire. This is their plan. This is what they're doing. This is their sphere of influence, that kind of thing. And the more powerful they are, the more bullet points they get. But I definitely need to know who the players are, the major players in a setting are. And I think it's one of the things that maybe kind of slows me down a little bit as a game master, because I'm so fixated on, okay, who's that guy on that corner? And I'll need to come up with a story for him really quick.
I tend to, when that occurs, I tend to just kind of let it fly. I've had issues that develop into, full-blown mini campaigns based off of something I misspoke about,
Right.
the joke, and for example, I'm the GM in a podcast called The Redacted Reports, and it's a Delta Green game. And during those games, in between sessions, there's things called interludes, or in between campaigns, and
Right.
they're slice of life type of episodes. And during one of the episodes, we were talking about one of the characters, being deployed to, a far off place in Alaska. And next thing I know, my imagination is just running out of my mouth. And I'm like, well, I just created a whole new adventure just for this one character who's far away. So we've done, maybe 5 or, 4 episodes just based off of that adventure itself, which should be coming out soon. But sorry, not trying to plug, but that was just an example of where mouth went out faster. I'm like, oh, now I have to catch up with what I was saying.
Right. Yeah, and I've certainly found myself misusing a word before in an adventure, because you're just talking so fast, or you want to get back to the meat of something, and then that using the wrong word or saying something incorrectly, that leads to details that you didn't plan for. And those, I believe, are happy little accidents, to quote Bob Ross. I think that they're good for play, to be honest.
I think so too. It's natural. It grows. Even though I think the word organic is overused and improperly used, it works here. Stuff just grows out of the stuff that falls out of our mouth sometimes.
I think the word organic gets used a lot, but I think it's because a lot of people still aren't hearing it, right? We play in a hobby that's extremely left brain at times. And a lot of people want to control a lot of things because they don't know how to go with the flow. So the process of talking about organic game mastering comes out of the fact that we're still not getting there as a community.
All right, I can see that. I'm with you on that.
Now I'm pontificating, and I use that word a lot on the show, but because I do it a lot, I'll stop and I'll think about the meta of what it is that we're doing, and how we as game masters or players, by what we're creating, the characters that we're bringing to the table. Often when I'm playing a villain or playing a dark character like what you're talking about, I'm doing it to make the heroes look better. And I've talked about this when Mike was on, about how the villain in wrestling sets the tone of the match. They set the pace of the match. They set the tone of the story. And when you have a good heel, it makes the face look that much better.
Oh yeah. And we could go on and on about pro wrestling, Jim.
Yeah. No, you and I could talk for 2 hours about it. Absolutely. But using that thinking, do you find yourself being more generous with the space because your character is doing these horrible things and now everybody else gets to look better?
Absolutely.
Or do you really like the spotlight on you when you're being a villain?
So I don't think that the spotlight is ever truly fixed. If it is just fixed on one person, then there's a problem overall with the game, with the table. When I say game, I don't necessarily mean like the game mechanics, but actually like what you're sitting down to do and play. I think the spotlight does need to move to different people, each time you sit down. I do enjoy a bit of the spotlight. I do have a bit of I do soliloquy a bit.
Yeah.
And I like to detail. I mean, I like to talk. I'm a storyteller. That's
Right.
how that kind of works. But I also don't mind sitting back and not necessarily saying a word or only providing, bit conversation when the spotlight's on others. I don't have to pull it to me. It's not my time. And if my episode, or if my time where it is focused on me benefits others, that's great, because then we're telling a good story, because what I'm doing is leading into something that another player is doing, and then vice versa. I also like the idea of semi-open secrets at a table, because if you just have secrets and nobody finds out about the secrets, then it's just masturbation. Right. But if maybe one other person knows that secret, one other player, not necessarily the character, then they could feed into that, that hidden thing and drop seeds into the story itself that allows you to play your secret into the game and bring it out, and, kind of let it grow and make it important. Otherwise it's just, words on paper that never get talked about.
That's a really good point. And since it sounds like we're giving some advice to people who are tuning in for advice, I think it's important to note that your role at the table is to also find your own happiness and to find the thing that's going to make your character thrive. You can't sit back and wait for the GM to do that. And when you're playing a character like this, I think it's teaching that to people, that I need to have a goal, I need to have a plan. I can't just sit on the sidelines like a wallflower and wait for the action to come to me.
I agree. I have this thought, and I don't know if it's been codified or talked about or studied in whatever Gamer Forge bullshit, but I have this idea of proactive players and reactive players, and it's a spectrum. And I am very much a proactive player when I sit down to play, but not everybody has that personality to do that. And that's okay. You can have reactive players at your table, as long as you don't have just reactive players. You need some proactive players. Otherwise, the game's not going to go anywhere. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Otherwise, the game isn't going to go anywhere if the reactive players just sit there waiting for things to happen. You actually need to have someone go out and have it happen. And people can move on that spectrum, in the game, and as they learn it, or as they get more comfortable.
You cut out for a second.
Sorry. People can move on that spectrum. They could change, from being proactive to being reactive, or somewhere in the middle. So they're not just necessarily stuck in that one spot the entire time. Though some personalities do feed into that. Some people are, I can't remember the name of the term for it right now. The E and the I. Extrovert and introvert. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. I get what you're saying.
Some folks are just naturally introverted, and that doesn't change their value at the table. They just may not be the person to speak up, and they might enjoy it just as well, just to be the wallflower and add, little one-line zingers here and there. And you can't always you can try to pull them away from the wall a little bit, have them come out and dance with everybody else, but if they don't want to, don't force them, and if everybody's having a good time, just roll with it.
I think it took me a long time to understand that, because I've been gaming since I was 11, and it took me a long time to understand that there's a lot of people that have no problem just sitting there and waiting for their turn, and they can watch for a very long time before they engage the system or the story. And now that I'm older, I get it a lot more. I get the idea a lot better, because I'm more than happy to not be in the spotlight at all anymore and make the story about everybody else's character. I play a lot of Protocol, and in that you're doing these one shots, and sometimes you get people who've never played like this before. And I feel that I have to do something big early on to show you what the game can do. But I like to recess into the background as quickly as possible so that other people can do their thing. And I don't know if I was a character in a long-term campaign now, I would play exactly that way. But I think that because we're game masters as well as players, we're looking at the table more holistically, so to speak, because we want to make sure that everybody's engaged. And I know that there's plenty of ball hogs out there at the table who have no problem with the spotlight being on them for an hour and a half straight.
No, yeah, I'm well familiar with those folks. I also know that sometimes that's okay as long as everybody else is having a good time. Some people really get off on being the sole spotlight, but as a GM, it's our job to kind of move it away from them or to guide them. And to the Bayushi Kairi or Khalil, the two characters that I'm kind of talking about now, which are effectively the same guy. The idea is, yes, I do show that, like, all right, cool. Here's my cool spotlight scene. It's probably really, really intense, but then it fades away and I move into the background and be like, all right, this is what I have for you. Now you take the ball and you run with it and you go do something cool. So yeah, it does help in, like you said, in showing Protocol, you kind of have to do something big to show, the level or the coolness of what we can do in our hobby. And it definitely helps, especially with new people.
I'm going to cut there. I was about to bring up something else and